on the shoulder and you said, you know, 150 years ago, you would have been like my favorite slave owned by my dad. JLP would consider that a compliment. There's actually a photo of him. It's a little old, but he got presented an actual, like, cotton bag that was used by slaves in America. And he, like, took a photo with that, like, holding it up, like, smiling, you know? Like, yeah, that's a real photo. I think it's, like, a couple years old, but you can find that. He seems to me, he seems to me like he revels a little bit in self-hate. I remember when I talked with him, he talked about how, like, he's white on the inside, and that's why he's, like, better than other black people, but he's also, like, got several ex-wives and children who he doesn't speak to, and about them, like, when pressed on it, it seems like he gets mad, or, like, there's a little bit of, like, maybe I was too black to avoid that kind of thing. He is very strange. Will say, though, in person, great handshake, very friendly guy. I know you're looking at me like very confused, and I promise you that the experience was shared by me when I met him in real life. It's just, I don't know, because it's kind of insensitive to say, right? Like, the self-hating black guy, that's like an inappropriate trope to evoke, but that describes his behavior, like, extremely well, and he so jovially plays into that trope, so I don't know how else to say it necessarily.
He called Trump the Great White Hope. He says, like, when I've frequently seen him do this many times on the show. He'll say, "Oh, you'll have to excuse me. I'm just black and slow." And I completely disagree with that. I think the man's a genius. I think he has built himself a very successful niche. He's got not only his program that's very popular, but he's got catchphrases out there. He's got merchandising. Like, this dude
have one of his shirts.
Solidified.
I bought one of his shirts. I bought it for $30. Absolutely, I'd do it again.
I think he's a very savvy businessman who really knows who his audience is. That's kind of my take on Jesse.
When I met him, I don't know how much. Sorry.
I was going to say, it should be noted that in addition to the self-hating stuff, he's also a vehement misogynist. Like when this guy talks about women, it's like, dude, like, you need to get laid or something. Like just the way he talks about them.
Very barefoot and pregnant stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about with him. The problem is he's so disarming. When you meet him in person, like, he never like passionately argues for anything, really.
Sure.
He just kind of sits there and laughs, and he'll just ask you like a dumb question, you answer, and he just asks you another dumb question. There's not like a through line.
Are you a beta male?
Yeah, are you a beta male? And you'll be like, no. And he'll say, I think you are a beta male. All right, and then he'll just move to the next one. He doesn't. It's just from. You go point to point. He's great. I do think, though, I wonder how much he's being, like, groomed by his managers, because when I talked to him, he did not seem like he was all there. Like, really, really cute, like, funny old guy energy, but in terms of the sinister businessman stuff, I wonder if there are people who are using him for that, you know what I mean? Like, he's just the radio show guy, but there are other people that are, like, puppeteering the business end of things.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it very well could be. Moving on down the list to the next person, who is Jordan Peterson? No relation, but who's Jordan Peterson?
But how good would it be if there was a relation? How good of a world would that be? I think that Jordan Peterson is very effective. He's a pop philosopher is what he's known for. I think that Jordan Peterson is extremely effective at being a substitute dad for guys who feel a little bit lost in life, and giving them very, very conservative political messaging in the form of self-help advice. So there's a lot of stuff that Jordan Peterson will do and say that affirms conservative outcomes, but he won't commit to the aesthetic or to the conclusion of the conservative argument. So rather than saying, for example, that women shouldn't work in the workplace, he'll instead say that through his evo-psych knowledge, there's a lot of, like, really weird historical lack of precedent for men and women working together, and that we don't know the rules just yet. And if you ask him what he means by all that, he'll avoid answering, but the only conclusion to all the stuff that he said leads up to, like, well, maybe women don't belong in the workplace, maybe women belong to work at home, you know? Men are order, women are chaotic, you know? All of these new social rules, the maps of meaning, they haven't been laid out yet, but he frames it and obfuscates all of it through this philosophical jargon that is completely incomprehensible. He is not a philosophy professor, he's a psychology professor. When he's talking about psychology, he's pretty well reasoned, educated. I mean, that's his job. When he's talking about philosophy, he's as educated as I am, or I assume as you are, but he dresses it up in these exceptionally flowery sentences that if you actually pull them apart mean very little. I recently went over a video of his where he talked with Ben Shapiro, you know, again, conservative outcomes here, and he would say the most obvious or the most asinine shit, but he would dress it up with, well, frankly, with language that your average person wouldn't be able to parse effectively enough to understand that it's BS. That's the problem that I have with Jordan Peterson. I think he actually says some really far-right stuff, just he dresses it up in a way that it comes off as like this philosophizing that people are supposed to take seriously because it sounds smart. His stuff on, like, cultural Marxism, for example, in addition to being incoherent, it's also as conspiratorial and socially damaging as, like, McCarthyite accusations. The idea that all of society is being infiltrated by, like, you know, woke SJWs who are controlling the fabric of government and politics and corporations and media, and that pretty soon you'll be unable to express any of your ideas or values because the censorship police are going to come for you if you misgender a trans woman. All of this ended up being complete BS, mind you. But he got millions of followers by essentially fear-mongering. We say this guy's an intellectual, but, like, remember, his following did not come from 12 Rules to Life. It came from the C-16 Canada panic. And by the way, still, nobody has been arrested for misgendering a trans woman. It still hasn't happened, years later. So,
it's what you call the politics of hypotheticals. It's what guys like Peterson and Shapiro especially thrive on, is like a lot of these like BS slippery slope arguments.
I think he's a snake, I really do. I know he's intelligent, and I think that he's aware enough of the outcomes of his positions. It's not like he's not a Christian conservative. Like, he is. We know that. He'll just dress up these arguments in a way that are designed to exploit the weaknesses and insecurities.
Jungian archetypes.
Yeah. To the extent that he's
like all the different... There's a funny meme out there where it's like a question answer with Jordan Peterson. I think I gotta shut up. It's getting loud. There's like a question answer with Jordan Peterson. It's like, Dr. Peterson, what's your favorite color? And the answer is just this long, you know, like you said, flowery sentence. Well, we must examine the axiomatic Jungian archetypes of the juxtaposition of neo-Marxist feminism. And it's absolutely hilarious.
I could not do that.
He dips his words. Do what? I'm sorry?
Oh, sorry. I couldn't do that right now. In 50 years, I'll be able to do that. I'm waiting to be old enough that when I just vomit bullshit, people will take me seriously, you know? Because right now, people will see right through it. But when I have, like, an old man beard, when I look like Chomsky, you know, like on the brink of death, I'll be able...
Pause this video. Yeah, I had to rebeat this because the first time I beat it, OBS apparently wasn't recording, and every time I've screwed up a recording before, it has been my fault, but this is the first time OBS just did it to me for like zero reason. And so yesterday I got really pissed about it, and I had to come back today and do it, and that took me like a fair amount of attempts. What was it, 2,740, right? Yeah. So, 625 attempts to rebeat it. Yeah, it's a good thing I really like this level. Or else, I just wouldn't have tried to rebeat it. It's got really fun gameplay. There's only like one or two really annoying parts. I actually think the balance in it is like... It's obviously not like balanced or anything, but like the balancing of it is fun. How it has like decently hard waves, and then like towards the end it gets a bit easier, although it does use fucking ships and jewels, so that's fun to deal with. And yeah, that's about all I have to say about this.